A new controlled feeding trial is drawing attention to a reality many people notice but rarely understand. When your morning begins with an ultra-processed breakfast, sweetened cereals, packaged pastries, flavored yogurts, energy bars, or fast food sandwiches, you're far more likely to experience intense cravings, erratic appetite swings, and higher calorie intake later in the day. The findings reinforce a growing concern among nutrition researchers. The first meal of the day doesn't just start your metabolism, it programs your appetite patterns for hours to come. And when that meal is ultra-processed, the programming can tilt dramatically toward overeating. The study observed that participants consuming heavily processed breakfasts had higher afternoon and evening cravings compared to those who ate whole food meals rich in protein, fiber, and minimally processed carbohydrates. This wasn't a small difference, it was a consistent and measurable shift in hunger hormones, reward sensitivity, and perceived cravings. What's alarming is how quickly the effects set in. Within just a few hours, the ultra-processed breakfast group showed suppressed satiety signals, faster hunger rebound, and heightened neural responsiveness to food cues. In other words, the morning meal created a biological setup that made resisting snacks far harder. Much of the problem comes down to how ultra-processed foods interact with digestion and hormone timing. These breakfasts tend to be low in fiber, low in protein, and loaded with either rapidly absorbed starches or artificial sweeteners, both of which send mixed messages to the gut and brain. Ghrelin, the hormone that signals hunger, drops only briefly after these meals, then rebounds aggressively, creating a yo-yo pattern that pushes people toward mid-morning and mid-afternoon snacking. Meanwhile, GLP-1 and PYY, two hormones responsible for fullness, never rise to adequate levels, meaning the body never receives a strong message that it's satisfied. And this is only the metabolic side. Behaviorally, the ultra-processed breakfast creates a dangerous pattern for the rest of the day. When people start their morning with foods engineered for rapid pleasure, high sweetness, soft textures, vivid flavors, the reward system becomes sensitized early. By the afternoon, the brain is primed to chase similar stimuli. This leads to cravings not just for more calories, but specifically for ultra-processed products, cookies, chips, sweet coffees, energy drinks, and fast snacks. The body begins to expect a quick dopamine hit instead of steady nourishment. Once that cycle is initiated, it becomes incredibly difficult to break. The consequences spill over into evening hours as well. The trial showed that participants who began their day with ultra-processed breakfasts consumed more total calories throughout the day, even when they tried to compensate by eating lighter meals later. This happens because appetite dysregulation triggered early in the morning doesn't simply vanish, it compounds. Afternoon cravings lead to impulsive eating, and impulsive eating leads to unstable blood sugar patterns that carry over into late-night hunger. By evening, many participants reported feeling out of control around food, even though the origin of the problem was a breakfast they barely thought about. What makes this issue even more concerning is how normalized ultra-processed breakfasts have become. For students, workers, and anyone with a busy schedule, breakfast often comes from a vending machine, a drive-thru, or a package. These foods are marketed as convenient, tasty, and energizing, but the science shows a darker truth. They may be quietly dismantling appetite regulation on a daily basis. Over time, this can contribute to chronic overeating, weight gain, increased stress eating, and reduced ability to detect real hunger. The seemingly harmless choice of a sugary granola bar or a flavored coffee drink can have cascading effects that undermine dietary stability long after the morning ends. There's also the psychological side to consider. When cravings hit in the afternoon, people often blame themselves, thinking they lack discipline or simply love food too much. But the feeding trial makes clear that the real culprit may be biochemical. When your first meal doesn't provide the slow-digesting nutrients needed to stabilize appetite hormones, afternoon cravings aren't a failure of willpower, they're a predictable response to a disrupted system. And for individuals who repeat this pattern daily, the body may gradually lose its ability to maintain steady appetite rhythms altogether. The bigger warning is that this effect isn't confined to a single day. Habitual consumption of ultra-processed breakfasts can train the body into a long-term pattern of overeating and dysregulated hunger. Over months or years, the morning meal can become one of the strongest predictors of total daily calorie intake, not because of calories in the breakfast itself, but because of the hormonal turbulence it creates later in the day. This is especially problematic for people trying to improve their diet, manage their weight, or maintain consistent energy levels. If the foundation, the morning meal, is unstable, the entire structure of daily eating becomes harder to control. Ultimately, the study is a reminder that timing and quality matter far more than most people realize. An ultra-processed breakfast might feel convenient or harmless, but it has the power to shape cravings, distort hunger signals, and push people toward excessive calorie intake hours later. For anyone struggling with afternoon crashes, evening overeating, or constant snacking, the source of the problem may be quietly hiding in the first 15 minutes of a day. The consequences accumulate invisibly, but the biological disruption is real, and the cost to long-term appetite regulation may be far greater than most people suspect.